Thanks for the call. And two this morning on social Facebook. So the work for it's my rights are can't see my. I didn't know. Yes. Yeah, so this year is possible for us.
Oh, it's good.
Oh, last year was. Well, as I said, yeah, I'm actually going to be there Wednesday around 4 or 5 o'clock, and then I'm just going to stuff at the back. And then we are, yeah, that's and then I'll write my name and then some of the different websites. So they don't. What was that again? And we could never go in the summer around midsummer. Oh yeah, oh yeah. But we've never been there. It was good. Every state can be gathered. I had 100 restaurants, which button push to clear it off. And we saw most attacks. And we did get I've seen some people. Yeah, we got a lot of green. You can see a building. And then it's see a building on the other side. And we saw another ship. Not as much. We ready?
I think we're good.
All right.
All right. Everybody ready? Oh, there. That's much louder.
The other one is
okay.
Much louder.
There we go.
Hi, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning. My name is Heather O'Hearn. I am the OLLI manager. I will be the escort, OLLI escort on this trip that we're doing now, the Italy Food and Wine. It's October 4th through the 15th of 2025, 11 days. We have 22 spots, 22 double and 4 singles on this trip. Josh, can I say your name again? Karashi from Go Ahead Tours is our presenter today. He did a great job in the first one, so if you were here for Iceland, you can expect another great preview with this for the Italy tour. We will have some time for questions at the end, but we're starting a little bit late, so we're going to make introductions short now, and we're going to let Josh take it away.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Good morning.
Morning. Morning.
Thank you. Again, we are seeing you again. Appreciate the folks who are stuck around after Iceland, but selfishly, as mentioned before, my last name is Karachi, which happens to be Sicilian. So even though I've been to Iceland, I'm biased toward Italy. And selfishly, when we talk about tours that Go Ahead runs to Italy, well, of course, none of them are bad. The ones that score the highest traditionally and people have the best feedback on are our food and wine tours. Thing to know about food and wine tours, if you've never taken one before, you know, I make the joke about nobody wants to feel like a sardine on a bus, which is why we never sell as many tour spots that there are on a traditional private tour bus. Our food and wine tours cap out at 22. So they sell out the fastest because there's just the least amount of spots on them. And we'll jump into a couple reasons why here in a second. So I mentioned before, we'll talk about the itinerary, the highlights of this tour, pricing, ways to sign up, and of course at the end, make sure there's plenty of time for questions, even with us starting a couple minutes late. So things to know about this tour. We are going to Italy in October of 2025. Reasons to be excited about Italy in 2025, or specifically in October, is we've ever watched the news and you've seen the stories about 105-degree days in Rome in the middle of July. Well, we picked specific dates because we are past the busy season, so the fact that it will not be overrun with tourists. And secondly, it will be in the very comfortable month of October, which end of September, early October, I would argue is the best weather to be in Italy. It's not getting cold yet, and so the tourists aren't there. It's a beautiful time to be there. Third, 2025, in case anybody is aware of it, is also a Jubilee year in Rome, which means Rome is going to be particularly packed. If you notice, this tour does not go to Rome. That is by design. We want to make sure, again, that people are having a very well-balanced, comfortable, relaxing, amazing tour. So that is why we did not put Rome on this itinerary. Mentioned before, 9 nights at hand-picked hotels. These are those 4-star and above hotels. Breakfast daily. This is the food and wine tour, so you'll see a lot of things next year. 4 lunches, 3 dinners that include beer or wine if that's something you want to partake in. 3 additional wine tastings, 4 food tastings, 1 cooking class, 7 sightseeing tours, and as always, those expert tour directors and local guides. The tour director is the man or woman who's going to be with you 24/7. They pick you up from the airport when you arrive. They are handling all of your transportation entries into places you are going, and they will get you back to the airport to get you home. Local guides are an addition to the tour director. They're not the same person. In this example, if you're going and we find our way in Bari and you were potentially at a winery there, a local guide would be someone who came in that might be from the town, that know that his or her family are the one that owns the vineyard, and they have 7 generations of winemaking in their family. These are the folks that we put in addition to your tour directors, to really enhance, because at the end of the day, we are here as OLLI members. EF Go Ahead Tour is not a tour. I'm not a travel agent. This is an educational tour company. The point is to integrate the experience of travel with the concept of education. Starting, as I mentioned before, and for my repeat folks, sorry if it sounds like a broken record, but day 1 on any Go Ahead Tour is your travel day. So that is when you are going to be meeting here, having arranged transportation from here to Detroit to get on your flight to go to Naples. You travel overnight on day 1, so you're really arriving on day 2. And as I mentioned before, everyone's body acclimates differently when going to a different country, moving multiple time zones. So when you think about it, we do not pack day 2 full of activity, because that's your acclimation day. That's your first day on the ground. We get you to your hotel. We get you settled in, and as with every Go Ahead tour, the highlight of day 2, the day 2 is meeting your tour director, and then also having that welcome dinner where your specific group of OLLI members are going to, some of us might already know each other, but maybe for the ones that don't as well, that's your time to really say hello and prepare for what's going to be a really awesome, potentially trip of a lifetime over the next couple days. You are starting off in Naples. I could go on forever about the specific cuisines of Italy. I'm actually going on a food and wine tour that we are doing through Butler University, and our tour director, if anybody's seen the Discovering Italy, the Stanley Tucci show on, I think it was CNN originally, but you can stream it on Max now. She has been sending us individual episodes of the cities we're going to help get us. So it's not necessarily there's an episode on every city, but if you're interested in this tour, I know there's a couple overlap ones which are worth going and checking out, because it's a really fun way to prepare for going. So Naples, of course, starting with, there's one of the many food tours. I mentioned before, there is an educational component, so not everything is going to be food. You're still going to be going to Jesu to see some of the famous churches. And then, what was I going to say? In addition to it, though, it's for me, it's nothing better. I'm a history nerd a little bit. That's one of my degrees at Michigan State a minor was in history. So the idea that this tour is you're going to have some history, but then you're going to take a break and eat. You're going to get a little history, take a break and eat. That, to me, it's not going to get much better than that.
Yeah.
And then, if you see here on day 3 at the bottom, it says, this afternoon is yours to explore Naples, or you can choose to add an excursion, a Naples tradition, Napolitano pizza. I used to live in New York City, so I'm a self-admitted bagel and pizza snob. I will put New York City pizza against almost any place, but one of the few places in the world that you can compare New York City pizza to is Naples. So if you so choose, you can spend your afternoon continuing on the food adventure and doing the Naples excursion to really deep dive the pizza. Can't have pizza without wine. So if you look into day 4, we are going to transition over, get out of the city. We are leaving Naples. We are now going into the countryside. We are making our way from west to east. And like I said, you see here even from the pictures, we see wineries, we see smaller towns. So we are changing again from urban to more countryside. This is an interesting one because one of the places you'll be staying on this tour is an agriturismo, which we mentioned before. These tours are capped at 22, and you can't visit a place like that with a group of 30 plus because they only accommodate small groups. But when you are there, this is really the true hands-on, like you are living, eating, breathing the experience of Italy food and wine when you're staying at a place like that. Because while you're there, it's integrated, like the experience with other Italian chefs and other artisans are going to be part of that visit, which again, I think there's a lot of things that make this tour unique, but your stay during these couple of days, that I think a lot of people will take away is like the number one reason why this tour was 6, 7 steps above some of the other tours they've been, even if they've been to Italy multiple times. Okay, so thinking there, as you can see here, we've pivoted. We're talking about being in smaller towns. We're talking about having, I mean, for me, when I've talked to people who have been on these type of tours, like my boss has been on a bunch of these tours. If any of you have seen Nicole before in previous meetings like this, she is the queen of Italy. And these are the experiences that she talks about. When you are there, you are fully integrated with the culture. You wake up, you are smelling the food that is being made somewhere in your general vicinity. You know it's only a couple minutes till you get down, and you're going to be able to participate in it. But yeah, I think in little things like here, like I'm particular too about like olive oil from Italy. Spain is like one step below, but Italian olive oil, you don't have to be a godfather, man. Like that's the good stuff. Like these are the things, the memories that you'll be making on days like day 5. Day 6, as you can see, this is when you're going to have your cooking class. I joke about the return of travel after COVID. My certain desire in COVID when I was bored out of my mind was I was really going to challenge myself to learn how to cook. So things that I've learned how to do over the last couple of years was like make my own pasta. I joke that I'm like a middle-aged guy, so that means I had to get a smoker and start to learn how to barbecue. But point being is that what I was able to teach myself is nothing compared to what you can learn from people who actually do this. And you're talking again, like I think it's even different than American culture where you will be meeting people who like they have a family lineage of being pasta makers or wine makers or olive oil makers or cheese makers, things like this. And that to me, I think is different because it's almost like a calling. And I feel like that from people I've talked to is really, again, an additional thing they take away from a tour like this. So day 7, we are now doing a food walking tour of Bari. So we are making our way up closer to the Adriatic side of Italy, so closer to the coast on the east side. But again, talking about a very historical city that has hundreds and hundreds of years steeped in food culture. And then that's kind of, I think the walking food tours, it's good because you think that you are going to have an activity level. So again, for the Iceland group, I mentioned having hiking boots. You don't need hiking boots for this tour, but you need some solid walking shoes because days like this, you will be, of course, taking breaks to eat and enjoy. It's not a marathon we're running, but you're going to be on your feet. You want to make sure you've got comfortable, sturdy shoes to make sure that this walking tour is as good a time as it can be. This is also a night that ends with an included dinner back at the Agriturismo. Mentioned before, there is not dinner, even though this is a food and wine tour, we still do not include dinner every night. Part of that is you are in a country that's one of the culinary meccas of the world, which means if you're me, I'm doing my own side homework on some things that I want, even as many great things you'll get on this tour. There might be a specific restaurant, there might be a specific type of food you're going to search out on one of those days there. That even though dinner is included this night, that's why we do not include dinner every night, because we want to make sure we give you the ability to not have everything pre-decided for you, so you can do that independent exploration as well. It doesn't have to just be you. Sometimes you'll have your little group of people that your friends that you're going on the trip, and you know, a side chat's going on beforehand, and yeah, you watch one of those episodes like, oh my gosh, we got to go to this one place. I don't care if I got to wait in line for 2 hours. We've got that afternoon free. We're doing it, and that's some of the fun that comes with tours like this. Because if you want to get away from it, you're going to be thinking about food 24/7, and that's not a bad thing in my opinion. So day 8, making your way to the Amalfi Coast. So now we're thinking we were on the eastern side, and now we are making our way back. So people think of Amalfi Coast, you think of Sorrento. It is a little bit southeast of Naples where the tour first started, but this is again another food capital. Excuse me, you're still, as you notice here, you're going to be integrating some cathedrals, but at the end of the day, we still will end up back at a local restaurant on day 8. Here we go. This is the picture I think when you think of Sorrento. We think of those beautiful houses, we think of being along the water, maybe somebody with an umbrella somewhere down there sipping on what do they call them? Aperol spritz or something like that. This is, while we're not going to be there in the height of summer, there's no bad time to have a cocktail on the water in Italy. That's
limoncello.
That's right, exactly. So you already know. I like that the wheels are spinning. We're already thinking, and I haven't mentioned that once. Something. Think about this for day 9. Well, they say this is more of a free day. So unlike the days where it's balanced between some guided activity and free time, this is day 9 of the trip. So you think we build in these free days because especially there might have been 2 back-to-back days if there's a travel day and then also a busier day. We want this to be balanced. So this could be a total, you find that umbrella to sit under in your limoncello and you put your feet up and you don't want to be bothered. Or you do have the ability to add an excursion. So if you're the type of person that says, hey, I only need so much free time, give me something to do, that's where you can add the boat ride, which again, weather this time of the year is still going to be really good. This part of the country too, the seas are not known to be particularly like, sometimes like if you go to Greece, you don't really want to be on a ferry in Greece at this time of year.
I discovered that.
Yeah, because as she knows, because the weather will start to get a little more inclement, the water gets a little choppy, you do not have to worry about that on the Italy side. But that is an 8-hour-long excursion, so that essentially is over a half-day excursion for just keeping that into consideration. So continuing on the Amalfi Coast, we see we're going to be visiting wineries that are storing wine in underground caves. I just think that's cool, just from an aesthetic purpose. But there also is a lot of history about why that practice has been used over the years, which I think is fun to learn about. I don't want to ruin anything for anybody, so I'll let you all explore when you get there. But again, this is getting close to the end of the trip, so you can see the day continues with a 4-course farewell lunch at the winery, featuring a tasting of 3 distinct wines. And in the afternoon, we finish off at Ravello, which is a hilltop town, which has some very, very panoramic, stunning views for our folks who are looking to take those pictures. Day 11. This is the final thing we mentioned before. Traditionally, it's a farewell dinner. In this trip, it's a farewell lunch. I think we'll all be very full by the end of this trip, so that won't be an issue. But thinking about day 11, this is our travel day back. You'll get breakfast, and then your tour director takes you back to Naples, which is where we depart back home to Michigan. Thinking about tips, as I mentioned before in the previous presentation, average between $8 to $11 a day. Folks that are potentially being tipped, we're talking about your tour director, we're talking about if you have any of those local guides, and your bus driver. Some portion of their salary, of course, depends on tips, as any service, if you feel that they've earned it, that's when you tip. But this just gives you a ballpark of what to have budgeted. Of course, Italy goes off of the euro. If you want to use euros, you can. If you want to use US dollars, These are folks who are in the travel industry. They are used to being able, they have ways to convert if you just have the American cash on you instead. Other things, we mentioned before the walking tour where we talk about the food tour. On average, you're looking at Go Ahead Tours, you can anticipate 3 hours of walking. We are in Europe, so unlike Iceland, where it's very much like rocky terrain, and that's like I said, recommend if you want to have ankle-high boots, you don't need that type of support for this trip. But it is, you're going to be walking, you saw the pictures of the historic towns. Not even in big towns in Europe, you're still dealing with cobblestone, but when you have those smaller towns there, we're talking about wineries that are on mountainside. So you talk about there's some level of elevation to it. So like I said, my recommendation for this tour is just making sure you have a very sturdy, solid, maybe new pair of shoes before you depart, because you will be on your feet, but I don't want to set the expectation you won't be hiking any giant mountains or anything like that. Mentioned before, euro is the currency. Thinking about this, I didn't really talk about it as much in the last meeting, but if we have any first-time travelers, the question always comes up. And we did this in the departure meeting for the Italy trip last year, is, well, how much do I need to go take out a bunch of money to have cash on me when I go over there ahead of time to be proactive? And my answer is almost always no, because couple things. You'll have plenty of opportunities. Every time I go and travel internationally, specifically to Europe, I have my ATM card. You have an opportunity when you're at the airport, when you first arrive, where there's, if you have just American cash, there's always the cash conversion places. I always do recommend check the rates, because sometimes what they're charging you to convert isn't worth it. I just think it usually traditionally works out best for me to just have a set. Usually go there, go to an ATM, take out the equivalent of $200. I never have spent it all on any of the trips I've ever been on for work or personal use. And the reason for that, as I mentioned in the previous meeting, is because 90% of the places you'll go will take a credit card. And we already talked about before, if you're going to get those points, get them. Just make sure your credit card doesn't have any international fees associated with it. Exactly. And as I also mentioned before, some of the cards nowadays, if you don't already have global entry, they'll give you a way for that to be paid for. It sounds like Jelly will talk about, there is somebody else coming in and will do a different presentation all about the different options regarding that. But just keep in mind, if you are opening up a new credit card, make sure it pays for your global entry for you so you don't have to. Mentioned before, this is what's unique about the Agriturismo. It's not something that we offer on many of our tours. Not even all our food and wine tours. Like I'm going on a food and wine tour in May to Northern Italy. I will not have the opportunity. You all will have to stay here. It's more of just a regional piece. They're more located in central to southern Italy. I'm still jealous. I mean, I'm Sicilian, so like I haven't been there yet. That's high on my bucket list. Shell, if you want to do a trip to Sicily, I'll tag along to that one. But point being is, mentioned before, like this is what I think is interesting to know. It is. You're talking about when you're there, you're having interactions with farmers, chefs, artisans, really people bringing. You're already going to be immersed in the Italian culture, but these type of locations, they bring it to your doorstep. And sometimes you'll have, I work with some other groups that pay outrageous amounts of money to be able to do whole trips that are based around staying in here. So the fact that we're integrating it into the trip while also incorporating other parts of Italy, I personally think it's kind of a best of both worlds, but I guess you guys will have to find out and get back to me. Let me know if that's right. Mentioned before, while I'm not an insurance salesperson, we do encourage, we have the travel insurance we offer. Things to know about it. Well, what does it get you if I get it? Gives you $50,000 in medical. God forbid something happens to you while you're on tour. It protects you if you have any pre-existing conditions and you can't be denied coverage due to pre-existing conditions. It gives you the any reason protection voucher, which means, I always joke, it's a corny story. We actually borrowed it from a competitor, but there was some supposed lady who got a really, really bad haircut the week before she went on tour. And she was horrified and she refused to be in any pictures. So she said, I'm not going on this trip. The any reason protection means she didn't break her leg. She didn't have something bad happen to her. She just got a really bad haircut. And the point is, you can use the any reason protection for as silly of a reason as that, to say, you know what, I changed my mind, and even up to a day before. What would happen is then anything you would have lost out in the cancellation fee is returned to you in the form of a voucher, which again, the beautiful thing about our OLLI here is there's always another trip, which means you, instead of losing that money, you can then apply it to a future trip. But of course, we're hoping nobody has any bad haircuts and they just enjoy the tour they signed up for. But in addition to the medical, of course, covering things, God forbid you have, you know, you hear the horror stories about people losing baggage or it gets delayed and then you have to buy 4 new outfits because who knows when Delta's going to fly. And also on a trip like this, it's still their job to get you the bag, but we're not staying in the same hotel for the whole time we're moving around. So it could even take an extra day for them to catch up. So it's nice to know that if you have the insurance, any money you spend on additional clothing that you didn't plan on buying, you of course will be able to file a claim and get your money back for. So tour costs, there is a slight change if you are a member versus a non-member, but as I mentioned before, let's see where it is, Golden Circle. Oh my gosh, one of these ones over here. Yep, there we go. This nice one right here. This is your roommate list. So trips are based off of double occupancy, which means 2 people per room. There are usually 3 to 4 single rooms if you are really adamant that you want to go, but you do not have a roommate, nor do you want one. So that is even more of a priority to come, first serve, because once they are gone, they are gone. The point being is the price here includes flights out of Detroit and also the insurance. If you are not a member, it goes up just a tiny bit, but also a reason to become a member. I'm not saying if you can't. How do we enroll then? So mentioned before, enrollment is actually next Tuesday. This is the sneak peek preview of the tour. We want to make sure the goal here is to get the people who want to go now so we know. But at the end of the day, everyone got these nifty packets when they came in. Inside of the packets are specific flyers on each individual tour. Inside each individual flyer, there is what's called a registration form. These are all the information you're going to need in order to sign up for the trip. And of course, if you have any questions regarding it, that is where our awesome staff here is able to help you as well in the process. So ways to sign up, you can use either, if you want to use the automatic payment plan, you can do it using a bank account or checking account or a debit card. If you want to pay, it's a little higher deposit, but you want to get your credit card points, you can use a Visa or MasterCard. Or of course, like I said, you can do an auto debit. Things to know, that's about how much it's going to cost, but Josh, how about how much I'm going to save? That's a better topic of conversation. So you mentioned here, there's up to $250 of potential savings. No matter what, everybody signs up starts with $150 off. That's the sign up, you signed up on sign up day credit. And secondly, if you are a repeat member and you've ever done a go-ahead trip before, or you are a parent of a student who ever did an EF student tour, you are considered a repeat traveler. So in addition to the $150, you don't have to pick them, you can stack them. You can get an additional $100 off. So up to $250 off, which is a nice way to start the process.
Question?
Yeah. Is there any discount for paying in full registration?
That's a good question. That came up the last time. We need to look into that because we're getting it on everyone, but as of right now, there's not an incentive to pay in full. Mentioned before, ways to do it if you want to do the automatic payment plan. Reason for doing the automatic payment plan is it does not, of course, these trips are not required for you to pay in full. Sometimes that question does come up. What the automatic payment plan allows you to do is secure your spot with a $99 deposit. And then the trip has to be paid off 3 months in advance. So what you're able to do is then take the difference between now and then. And for this trip, it's over a year and a half away. So you're talking about having a much more digestible monthly payment that can come out every month. So you kind of can set it and forget it. And then that is the presentation. I think we made up a little time here. We still have 15 minutes to spare, and I will open the microphone up to questions.
So I didn't notice this in the Iceland trip, but it says Visa and MasterCard, and maybe it's because you said it this time and I remember hearing it before. Do you not take American Express?
No, we do not. That's the thing with go-ahead whatever the deal they have with their credit card companies. So those are the only two that they process are, MasterCard and Visa. So great questions, but I didn't say it last time.
Fly with Delta, that's weird.
Yeah, the thing with where we fly is we fly with Delta, correct? But we have, the way our flights are negotiated, we have a separate flights, an overall flights contract that is with all major airlines. I don't think they're, I mean, at the end of the day, like, I know the Delta Amex exists. But you also have to remember too, when you're doing flights through us, we're buying them in bulk, which is like how we are able to get savings to pass down. So as a result, it's a little different than buying it as if you were to go on, you know, Google Flights and buy your flights. So that at the end of the day, I just don't think there's like there's anything that connects the two of them. Yep. Question.
Okay,
One, two.
Say you're going, you know, like an earlier trip, but you haven't gone yet.
Yep.
Can you still get the discount?
Yes. So great question. She said, if you're signed up for another trip, but you haven't technically gone yet, you still, so in the system, instead of being a repeat traveler, you get in its place the same discount and what's called a multi-tour discount. So you get credit for the fact that you're signed up for 2 years and you don't get penalized for the fact that you technically haven't returned.
Right.
And what is that amount?
They're both 100. So it's the same as if you were a repeat traveler.
So it's 100?
Yes.
So again, she brought up a thought then. So are baggage fees included if we go with OLLI?
Great question. So traditionally, actually I should build this as a slide because that's a.
Yeah.
Depends.
So thinking about a normal flight, you can have the expectation you will get 1 check bag and 1 carry-on bag included. And then anything in addition to it, because I make the joke, but I'm not even joking. I'm specifically going to have extra space in my suitcase when I go to Italy. Exactly, olive oil. I mean, my boss, who originally started the partnership with Shelley, her husband's a huge foodie, and she literally, I mean, I'm not sure if for anybody who's attached to shoes, I don't want to make it just like a lady's thing. She left shoes in Italy to clear space to bring him back cheese. So point is, some people want to bring, yeah, no comments about how our shoes might smell like cheese, but that's a different thing. But point being is that if you wanted to bring additional baggage beyond the expected 1 and 1, have the expectation that additional costs can be associated.
But the check bag is
Yes.
included, okay.
Anytime you do international flights, there should always be 1 check bag.
I'd like to add to that, it's not always true that those baggage fees are covered. So if they do charge you, it will be your own responsibility. You
See,
may
that's,
even run into a situation where the person in front of you was not charged and you are. Yes, that's uncontrollable, and you don't want to get an argument with the ticket maker because you won't be flying.
Yeah.
It's just how it is today. I apologize, but that's what we've run into the last 2 years.
okay.
How many changes of hotels do we have?
For this one, let me go back and look. Good question. I can tell you. Let's see, we have.
We were trying.
2,
That was cool.
so 3 nights in Amalfi, so that's 1 hotel. 4 nights in Etria, 2 hotels. Naples, 2 nights, 3. So just 3 hotels.
Is there any possibility of doing out of Naples, the island of Capri on our own?
Did you take Capri?
Yeah, island of Capri on our own.
So Capri would actually be, instead of really Naples, when we're in Amalfi, Capri sits right on the tip of Amalfi. So it would be any of the free days when you're in Amalfi would be where I would look, because a lot of times what you can do is, you know, the days you'll be there, you'll know the free day, and you can go independently or talk to other people who are going and say, hey, Daddy, you want to join, and just find and also you could do it that way. Don't kid yourself. When you're there, there's going to be a million vendors who are going to also offer you potential trips.
How long of a trip is it?
We have other tours that offer it. I would call it a half day, just because you calculate the time there and back on the ferry. Plus, where's that?
How long is the ferry ride?
It depends where you're departing from, because there's different parts of the coast, and like, so I just don't want to give you the wrong answer. Like, it could be, you know, as short as like a 45-minute ride, or some of them farther away are a little longer.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
We will let you know. We'll ask that question.
Yes.
Can we go back to the registration now?
Yep.
Let me see there.
This one?
There it is,
Yep.
yes.
So things to also know, and also this should, in case you're curious, is that sure if you have your slides in each each individual one should have a copy of this in your
It looks different.
in your slide. It's been updated a little bit, but it should contain the same information.
Okay.
Things like that we're talking about, it came up in the last meeting as well. Flights, the flights you see that are priced right now on what's called the menu, those are just normal economy flights. Once we get closer to departure and you have a preference to do like a business class flight, you have the ability to request it. We'll be communicating with the people enrolled when people need to indicate, or like when they'll hear back for putting those requests in. But there is a box to check on there, letting us know proactively that that's something you're potentially interested in. Because we just want to make sure we have that information, so we're putting those requests in a timely manner. Yes.
And as far as those requests go, realistically, those are quite pricey. They're not 100 or 200 or 300, they're 1, 2, 3,000 and up.
We've seen some wild ones. I mean, we mentioned our friend Carson, who's our account manager. I know personally he's going on different because it's not Italy, but he's doing a trip with an OLLI out of Colorado, DU, that's doing a trip to Japan next month. And I do know his upgrade was just under 2,000 to do business class. So it is one of the ones where
even the bats.
yeah, exactly. So it's one of the ones, totally a personal preference, but just want to make sure I'm not setting incorrect expectations. Other questions? Well, somebody's got a question about food. This is a food and wine tour.
On the boat trips, do you get drinks and snacks and stuff?
That is a good question. I can follow up with you after.
The boat trip, do they give you snacks or drinks? Because it is, you're on there for how long? 8 hours.
Oh, no, that trip is like 20 minutes or so.
Well, I'll follow.
No, this.
Yeah, you're talking about the different one. There's a different excursion. I will double check to give you a correct answer. I just don't know off the top of my head. I don't want to accidentally overspeak.
No.
Yes.
You're stopping.
The lady that I'm traveling with is allergic to garlic.
I feel for her.
I know.
What was the question?
She was just saying that the lady she traveled with is allergic to garlic.
Oh, yes.
I would say this, the great thing about our tours is when people enroll, they're able to put in any sort of dietary restrictions. So I feel confident that she'll be able to be accommodated. Personally, going to Italy without garlic is like, but if she's excited to go, I don't want to discourage her. So just so you know, we fully are capable to accommodate people with dietary restrictions.
Well, I understand that all regions don't use a lot of garlic.
That's true. It's not necessarily the whole piece. That's a little bit of the Americanized.
We are seeing more and more gluten-free requests and celiac, and so we asked Nicole about that one, and she said Italy is probably one of the best areas to travel in regards to the gluten-free. They can accommodate, and their foods are so much cleaner.
Yeah, I don't much kind of science behind it, but there's a whole, you'll hear people giving testimonials all the time that are gluten-free here, and they will go there and they're told, like, try the pasta, what happens, and they don't have the severe reactions to it. I'm not a food scientist, I can't tell you why that's the case, but if anybody does have any sort of gluten intolerance, supposedly it's, sometimes you can get away with it. Yes.
So I was just wondering if this is during grape harvest time, perhaps?
I can double check on that one. I'm not sure if it is. Traditionally, harvests are a little earlier than October. They're going to be going off of information from domestic harvests, so I can look to see if that differs in Italy. Yes.
You mentioned something that sounds like we can bring cheese back. That's okay.
Yes, indeed, it is.
In the check bag.
Yes, in the check bag. Yes.
Yeah, but if your bag takes its own little excursion, I guarantee you from experience, your cheese will be totally molded and you have to throw it away.
Depending on what kind of cheese you buy, because my other one is going to Parma, and my goal in life, not that you can fit it in a
You get.
in a suitcase, but my go find a way to bring back one of those huge wheels. I don't know if anyone's ever had it where they take it and they take the top off, they like put a little liquor, they light it on fire, and then they douse, they like do the pasta in. That's like, I want that on my house.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if my wife will sign up on that, but it's a separate story. Yes.
How about the wine and olive oil? Can you bring that back?
Yes.
Olive oil?
Traditionally, I mean, usually they offer some version of, I call them, and I know this from bringing also wine back from places like Napa, or a lot of the wineries will sell or include, if you buy them, the little packaging.
Bubble pack.
Yeah, kind of bubble pack, or like kind of like hard styrofoam that like you can put it in, so if it does have any impact, but absolutely, I mean, no judgment, but if people go on this tour and they don't bring something back, I'll be like 5% disappointed. Yes, Savannah.
I'm on the northern one, go ahead, and I love the agro-tourist hotel. I'm wondering if you know the name of the one we're going to be staying at?
Great question. We'll know it closer to departure, but this far in advance, because of the way we have to set our, like the relationships we have, we just aren't able to tell you yet, because we have the relationships, but we haven't set them, because it's about how big is the tour, how many rooms do we need. You will know ahead of time, I just can't tell you today.
Thank you.
Also, I'm happy to hear you like that one, because that's the one I'm doing in 2 months, so I've heard nothing but good things, but again,
How many people went on that one that are here today? The first one, last one. And this group is why we get to do this second one, because they had
Yeah, we're
such
doing the second one.
well, thank you to everyone who just raised their hand, and everybody's interested in the next one. Yes.
Okay, but so when it says you save $150 to those that sign up today, is that today or is that?
So that's
registered?
on registration. Great question. Yes.
So how many bottles can you bring back?
There is no bad number for that answer. That's the yeah. That's I don't know if anybody's ever seen it or been to California. My wife's got twins, or like, not, she doesn't have twins, but she has twin siblings. And we went for their 30th birthday, and there were wineries that sold individual suitcases, and you opened them up, and it was designed to bring back 25 bottles of wine. So I'm just saying they exist. You got back to the question about the extra baggage. To bring back 20 bottles of like really good Italian wine, it's also going to be so much cheaper than wine here. The quality, just like the it blows my mind sometimes of what we spend for wine here, when you're like, it's arguably better there and half the price. So motivated to bring good wine back. That's all.
The shipping cost is pretty much double the price of the bottle of wine. But you can go in together, get a larger crate, and have it shipped. We had a lot of people in line.
Any more questions? I do got to prep for my next one. Hopefully we'll see something. Hopefully something in there. We're halfway down.
Sit down.
2 down, 2 to go.
Just so everybody knows that, registration, like we said, is on, Tuesday next week. I think a lot of you were here when Shelly. So do you have any questions? Anybody miss it? So you can registration day, you can register